Hey guys, what I'd like to do in this video is talk about Quad M.2 cards. This is the ASRock Ultra Quad M.2 card. PCI Express Generation 3, it uses an X16 slot. And what this one will allow you to do is add 4 additional M.2 card slots to your system. And that is very useful. So many thanks to Grant Paterson who left a comment about this yesterday. This is an accessory or an additional product that you can buy for your setup. And it's something that I always knew existed. I knew these things existed. Anyone can buy something like this. Gamers can buy it. Anyone with a desktop computer can buy it. But it wasn't until Grant posted about, he asked me to check out Quad M.2 card slots, that I really thought about this from a mining perspective. And I thought about my own mining rigs and how something like this could be very, very useful and allow me to grow my mining rig without building another rig. So I'd like to talk about that in this video and specifically talk about how Ultra Quad M.2 cards, as this one's called, Quad M.2 cards, how these kind of things can be quite useful for anyone who's got a GPU mining rig. So let's kind of rewind for a second. I'll just talk about my mining setup and I'll talk about what I've got. I've got 4 GPU mining rigs over there, but if I focus on the bottom 3, I've got 8 1060s in the first, second and the third rig. So that's 24 GPUs in total, but I have 8 GPUs with each motherboard. Now my motherboard has 7 slots for GPUs and I can use these. This is I'm sure you guys are aware of this, but this is a GPU riser and you plug this into your GPU. You plug this, the cable into there, and down at the bottom, this part here, forget it out, this is the little slot. This goes into your X1 slot. It can also go into an X4, an X8, or an X16. And, I would talk about speeds, but generally, X4, X8s, X16s are larger slots. Now, as far as that goes, well, every motherboard is different. Most motherboards have one X16, they'll have one X8, and then they'll have a couple of X1s. The one that I've got, the ones that I use anyway, the Asus Prime Z270-A, it's quite a good motherboard for mining. It's very popular with miners. It was Donnie who recommended it to me at the beginning. And those motherboards are very good because they've got 7 slots in total. So there's a couple of bigger slots like X8 and X16, but then it's got many smaller X1 slots. And when you're GPU mining, all you need is an X1. That's all you need because you're not transferring a lot of data from your GPU rig, from GPUs to the rig. It's just, you're basically just saying, has the share been accepted? All the calculations are being done on the GPU. So you're not transferring a lot of data. You don't need a lot of bandwidth, which is why you only need smaller X1s. So my motherboard is designed out of the box to work with 7 GPUs in that way, using GPU risers. But I added an additional one. I added an additional GPU to the system by buying an M.2 adapter. And the M.2 adapter, this is the one that I bought. It's £10 in the UK, $7.99 in the USA, so a little bit cheaper in North America. And I bought this so that I could add an additional GPU. So my 8th GPU in each of those systems is using that. So basically what I have on my GPU rigs, I've got all these cables plugged in directly to my system, directly into the motherboard. And then using that adapter, using the CosyOnic M.2 adapter, I have an 8th GPU plugged in. So this is how all 8 GPUs are plugged in. Now that particular motherboard is pretty good. It's got 2 M.2 slots built in. I use one for my SSDs, so one's for the hard drive, and the second one is used for the adapter to add the 8th GPU. But using a quad card and going back, now that you know my setup, now you know what how my rigs are built. Using this quad card, I could add 3 additional M.2 card slots, essentially, because one would be used with my GPUs. So if I'm assuming I'm going to have the same number of GPUs on it, one of these slots, I would buy an M.2 adapter and I would put one of my GPUs in there. So whatever GPU is connected to my X16 right now, I would take it out, I would buy an M.2 adapter. As I said, they're like £5 each in the UK. Those ones work out like $4 each in the USA. And I would connect it to that one. And that gives me 3 additional M.2 slots. That is very, very useful for anyone who's got a GPU mining rig. Now, there are a few things that you need to check. The ASRock Ultra Quad M.2 card, it's about £110 in the UK. This one is an X16. The other one that I saw, the Asus Hyper M2, this is also an X16 there. So it's £43.40 in the UK right now, $64.90. Prices do change. And I'm just giving you some examples. There's a lot of other options out there. You can buy cheaper brands as well. More recently, I saw Acorn, and Acorn have, these ones are actually X8. So this is a double one. This is an X8 that's got 2 M2 slots, and this one's the X4. And it's got 4. And looking at the prices, this one's $110. This one's $140. But for the additional 2 M2 slots, I think that one's a better buy. But you might want to go with the smaller one. You know, there's no dimensions there, but just looking at the design, it looks smaller. Now, I don't know if these ones are general. You know, like with this type of card, you can do anything you want with this M2, with these M2 slots. I could put a GPU there. I could put another accessory there. I could put an SSD in that one. The Acorns, it looks like it's saying that these ones are designed specifically for their Acorn products. And I'll do another video about their Acorn products. This is something that, you know, has generated a lot of interest, but this is the Acorn CLE 215 Plus, and what it does is boost your GPUs, and it can boost your CPU as well for specific algorithms. So when if you buy a card like this, or the Asus Hyper, or even if you're just buying it for the Acorns, you buy something like this, you're adding additional M2 slots. So how does this apply to me, and how does this apply to anyone else? Well, if you have a GPU mining rig, something like this can allow you to expand without building another rig. So as I said, my motherboard has 2 M2 slots. I could always take out one of the, I believe I can take out the M2 SSD, move it to a 2.5-inch SSD, just put it into a SATA drive. I could do that if I wanted. I'm running it from a USB drive anyway. You know, I've just got Hive OS running from this anyway. So I could, in theory, just take out the SSD because it's only Windows that's on that anyway. I believe I can put in a 9th GPU if I use an adapter into that motherboard. So I could add, if I take out my Windows SSD, which is using an M2, which is an M2 SSD, if I pull that out, I could, in theory, add a 9th GPU. I need to check that, but I believe I could add a 9th GPU. Now, so I could add 9 GPUs, and then if I buy a card like this, 1 GPU, you know, coming from the X16 would go there, and then I could have 10, 11, 12 GPUs. So I could run Hive OS through the USB stick. I could take out my Windows SSD. If I bought a quad card, I could attach 3 additional GPUs. And that's a big thing for me, because right now, all those GPU rigs, I've got 8 1066 gigabytes. Now, out of the box, running at 100%, those are 120 watts per card. And I've got EVCA, what are they called? If I can get them there, I think they're called the T2 1000 or something. It's a Platinum PSU 1000 watts. Now, in theory, if I was running those at 100 watts, I'd be running pretty much at maximum. But I'm running the cards at like 60 watts. So running at 60 watts, you know, for example, 10 cards is 600 watts rather than, you know, 4 or 5 or whatever. So what can I do? Well, in theory, I could maybe get 11 or possibly even 12 GPUs into each rig there. In theory, I could add 4 additional GPUs. I don't have to buy another motherboard. I don't have to buy additional RAM. I don't have to buy anything else. I need to buy a Quad M2 card, and that will give me 3 additional GPUs. Now, it's not just GPUs. As I was saying, you know, in those M2 card slots, I could put an SSD. I could put an additional GPU or 2. I could also put one of these Acorn products, which accelerates your mining and makes it more efficient. Now, this one runs at $330, so that's, you know, a different story. We will talk about that again in another video, because I think this is a very interesting product. But yeah, I mean, in this video, I really just wanted to bring this to your attention as to the fact that these things exist and the possibilities that these cards can offer you, as far as, you know, increasing the overall number of GPUs and M2 slots that you have in your motherboard. It does give you a lot more opportunities to expand your rig without starting another new rig. When you buy a motherboard, a lot of motherboards only have 1 M2 slot. I'm quite lucky mine's has 2. But, you know, even if I pull out my Windows SSD and I put in another M2 adapter, I'm at 9 GPUs, whereas a card like that can give me 10, 11, 12. And I've got the PSU there anyway. You know, everything's set up good to go. So it's just a matter of, you know, I could pick up a cheap GPU for like, I don't know, £150, £200. The thing I like about Hive OS is that when you run Hive OS off a USB drive, you can mix up AMD and NVIDIA cards. They don't have to all be the same. You can mix them up. You can, you know, modify the temperatures and the power rating of every GPU separately, and you can apply different settings to each one. And that gives you a lot of flexibility as to how you expand your rig. Because, you know, going back to, you know, I'll talk about this in another video, but if you go back to the Acorns, from an NVIDIA point of view, the returns, you know, you're getting a 1.76 boost from a 1080 Ti and things like that. But if you go down to the AMD cards, some of these boosts are like 2.6. So you could, in theory, if you're going to buy one of the Acorn devices, one of these Acorn M2 cards, you could buy an Acorn product, but also pick up a cheap second-hand RX 580. Now, every one of you guys has a different mining setup, but you might be running your motherboard that might only have 6 GPUs out the box and 1 M2 card slot. So you might be at 6 or 7 GPUs already. And I think something like this could be very, very useful. So everybody's rig's different, but if your rig has reached capacity, if you can't attach any more GPUs, but you've got like 400, 500 watts spare in your PSU and you're thinking, I could stick another few cards in here, then you might want to consider something like this, guys. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. This is something I'm just exploring. I'm thinking out loud again. You know, I was thinking about maybe I could build another rig because a lot of people selling some used GPUs. It'd be good to do some videos about that. But if I modified my existing rigs, I could get more out of them. And really, when you're talking about GPU mining, you're talking about efficiency. You're talking about squeezing as many GPUs into the one motherboard as possible. Well, generally you are. When you build another rig, it's a new motherboard, but it's also a new hard drive. It's also a new, you know, more RAM. It's also more cable. All these other things you need to think about. Another power supply and all that as well. If you can just get that little bit more from your existing setup, then I think you're all the better for it. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll leave links to everything that I've talked about in this video if you want to check them out further. It's just a simple accessory. It does just seem like a simple accessory for a PC or for a mining rig. But I think that maybe more of us should be looking at this. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. At the very least, I hope I've given you some food for thought. If you don't think that this would be useful for your rig, please tell me why. And if you do think this would be useful, again, leave a comment. Let me know how you would add this to your setup and make your, you know, improve your setup and improve the overall performance of your rig. Increase it, add more GPUs, add an Acorn. Tell me what you think you'd do with a quad or a dual M2 card slot. So thanks for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. Leave a comment and I'll speak to you all in the next one. Take care.